welcome to the show. I'm excited about today's subject, Shane, because this is it's like the lifeblood of every single business. That if you don't have this figured out, you don't really even have a business. But before we
Yeah.
dive in, man, it's Monday at the time we're recording this, man. How you doing?
Mondays are always good days, I think. I actually like it when you come in and you got stuff to do. And what I mean by that, sort of the energy of a new week
Yeah.
and diving forward. Um, you know, on Thursdays and Fridays, it feels like things are winding down, and Mondays they're ramping up. So I actually enjoy that. I don't hate Mondays like I guess some people talk about it. So, uh,
Yeah, you
doing
know what
pretty
I've
good.
decided? People that say they don't like Mondays are people that just legitimately do not have anything going on in their life that they're like excited about. Right? It's
Yeah.
like because there's been times in my life that Monday comes and I'm all screw you Monday. This sucks. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do any of this stuff, right? And you kind of trudge through it. And then there's been other times that I'm like Sunday night I'm struggling to sleep because I really want to get after it, right? And
Yeah.
Monday. And so I literally it's good. So that's good that you're excited about Mondays, bro. That just means
It
you're up
is.
for
I
it.
usually am. And, we had a good weekend. I turned 50 last Friday. So, we
Happy
had some people
freaking
over.
birthday,
Yeah.
dude. What'd you do for your birthday?
Didn't do a whole lot. We chilled at home. My parents and my in-laws came in. We had dinner on Friday, and then Saturday, some friend of ours came into the house, and come and hang out Saturday
Uh-huh.
and Saturday night. So that was, and the boys came in. So one of my boys is home for the summer. The other one comes in and out over the summer because he's mostly in North Carolina with his fiance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Somehow we wanted to hang out with her this summer. I don't know why.
I can't
Uh,
figure that one out.
yeah, so he was in town for the weekend as well, so that was good. So everybody under one roof, friends were over, saw the in-laws and my parents on Friday. So
Dude,
overall, I'd say good weekend. So
dude, here's a question for you, man. Because 50's pretty big year, man. You're out
yeah.
of your 40s. Like, some might say you're officially old. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying some people might say that. But do you feel like, and this is going to be like a sideways question, do you feel like your life is where you thought it would be? Like, as you
I
think back, because,
Yeah.
you've built a lot, right? And it's like, dude, but
Yeah.
where are you at with your expectations of
Y-
life?
Well, one, it is kind of sad because I realized about, 1/5 or 1/6 of my life is probably gone.
Yeah.
So, I've only got 250 more years to go. Um, so, but when I'm like, what my life would be like, obviously I thought my kids would be growing up and in college, right? That's
Right.
that's the easy answer. But honestly, my life is so much bigger than I thought it would ever be. I mean, like even getting out of the army, I wanted to make money, and I was talking to the firm that hired me, and they're like, yeah, you know, at the end of your second year, if you're not making $160,000, we would not consider that a winner year. And I was like 160 grand. Shit, I'd be happy with that. That's like
Right.
I would consider it a win. And they're like, no, man, that's you need to be making more than that. And that was sort of, I had that, and then I had a conversation with a buddy of mine right when I was about to start my firm, and he's like, why could we not compete with one of the big dogs? And that was like even 8 years into being a lawyer, right? And you know, we've done super well. I've worked super hard and built a huge thing. So like on the business side, bigger than anybody, in my family or that I was around, around those dreams. I didn't even know to dream this big,
Yeah.
right? Like, uh, to have a multi-million-dollar house or be looking at, building a ranch, is incomprehensible, really. It
Yeah.
wasn't even on the book. But then you flip over, so many of my friends and their family, their parents are divorced or they're not together, and like
Yeah.
me and Holly are tight, and I think it's actually a flex for my boys. They're like, yeah, my parents love each other. They're like
Hmm.
genuinely love each other, and they spend time together. Where do that. So the relationship with the kids is great. Uh, I was watching a movie with one the other day, and like I said, the other one flew in for my weekend or for my birthday.
Yeah.
And physically, went and I was with my dad's trainer this weekend. He was encouraging my dad to try to max out on bench, and he sort of bullied me into trying to max out as well. And I was irritated because I missed what I wanted to do. I got stuck at 255 as opposed to 265, which is where I wanted to be, and I would have really PR'd at 260 had I done it correctly, you know. But that's more than I ever would have done when I was younger. I mean,
Dude, I love that you're like brushing through that like it was like a normal thing. You're like, well, I PR'd, it was only 245. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, do you realize how few human beings can do that? Let alone, like, tell everybody how much you actually weigh.
yeah, I weigh about 156. So,
So, dude, that's freaking massive, bro. There's
you
dudes
know,
that are 250 pounds that can't bench 200 pounds. So, like,
yeah,
dude, yeah, dude. I'm impressed.
yeah.
I think it's a good bench.
I wasn't, putting it down like nothing, but I was irritated because I should have hit the 265. That's what I wanted to hit,
Yeah,
and because you're always chasing more, right? So
always,
as soon
always.
as you get 225, you really want 275, and 275 is really just a stepping stone to 315, right? And you're like, if I bench 315, that'd be 3 plates, that'd be like, all right, and then I can legitimately be like, okay, no need to get bigger, no need to lift
Oh,
heavier.
dude, the guys that can bench 315, you're officially a godfather. That's how I always view that. You can slap
Yeah,
on 3 plates on there and pound that out. I'm like, okay, okay. There's really
yeah.
you own the gym. You could do. I'll get out of your way, good sir. Like you want that cable machine? That's yours. You have it. I'll step
And,
aside.
and it's probably ridiculous because, like I said, I don't weigh that much, and I can't imagine adding, that much more weight. But who knows? Who knows where
Hey,
it
dude,
goes?
anything's possible, bro. Just like in your firm, dude. When you started
Yeah,
out, like the idea of 160K was like a great. You're like, wow, that would
yeah,
be magical, right? And now your firm does over 20 million a year.
yeah.
So
I mean,
like and
so
all of that, like it, dude, it's cool because you've had the years of growth to look at that. And then you also have you kind of can look back now and be like, dude, these are the steps I followed to get there. Right. Here's
yeah.
how this was designed, created. I mean, it's literally the map that we built inside the Legal Edge. I mean, it's
Oh,
what
yeah,
we
but
do
yeah,
from
and honestly, Trevor, I'm bad about minimizing it because I look at it and go, it took me, what do I had my firm 16, 20 years, something like that. I'm like, it took me
yeah.
20 years to get here. That's so ridiculous and so slow. I should have been much faster. And I'm like, why did it take so long for crying out loud, right? And
Yeah.
and especially when we look at some of the plans we create and the strategies we put in place, I'm like, dude, like I should have made that. I should have crushed that. Right? I should have.
Yeah.
If I'd done that 10 years earlier, holy cow, where would I be? You
Yeah.
know. Uh,
Well, and it's
and
dude, it's all hindsight that way, and I think
yeah,
that's why you've got to surround yourself with people who have done what you're trying to do.
yeah,
Because the only way to do it is, I mean, there's two ways. Number one, you can figure it out, but that's the most ridiculous thing ever because that's literally saying, well, I'm going to go reinvent how to build the wheel. I'm going to go do that all the time. Even though, dude, I could just go down to freaking Big O Tires and just get a wheel. I don't even have to reinvent how to make one. I could just buy one. But this is that archaic way of thinking that
yep.
we're independent. We got to do it on our own and we got to build. And somehow there's like, the more I suffer, the more I don't know, the better I am. I don't even know why we do that. It's like we take this badge of honor in that suffering because that's
Yeah,
one path,
and
and your
and I
other
was gonna
path is
yeah,
oh sorry, go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say yeah, it's that middle, and I used to say this. It's the middle class mindset of I've got to do it all on my own.
Yeah,
I got to figure it out on my own. The worst, the best I can do is buy a book that maybe talks about it. But I've got to get a coach or mentor or somebody who extends a hand and helps pull me up, kind of deal. I mean,
yeah,
we act like that's terrible, and I'm like, why in the world would it be terrible for business when it's good for everything else? I mean,
yeah. It
it,
makes no sense. We I don't know. We isolate ourselves, and I don't know. It's not even. It's until you've done it, until you've been down that road, you don't know. Like you don't even know that you need to have somebody in your corner that is basically pointing things out that you don't see and showing you the map forward so you can go after it. Because that's that other path, right? One's I do it by myself. The other path is, hey, I still got to do the work, but I
yep,
follow a process or a map or I follow after somebody. I get a mentor, I get a coach, I get somebody who helps lead and guide me. So I avoid that decade worth of pitfalls that
right.
they hit so that you can do it in 1 or 2 years as opposed to when you look back at at 50 years old, looking back at the firm and looking back and be like, man, had I not done this or that or that, I'm sure we could spend an entire 10 shows going through all the decisions you made in ignorance that were like, well, that was not really very smart. That cost me
Yeah.
6, 7 figures of
Oh yeah.
growth because of that stupid decision. Wow. And it's wild because you don't see it until after looking back
Yeah.
into it, right? And that leads us into really what we're want to talk about today, the subject of today, and it's this idea of intake, i.e., money coming in, the process that happens, why does it matter, and why would I say at the beginning of today's show, this is the lifeblood of your business. If you don't figure this out, then you're going to be like every other business owner out there, and you're going to struggle. So,
Yeah.
talk to me about when intake in the world of Shane Smith law. Like, talk to me about what is this intake when we say it that
Yeah.
way.
And inside of intake, we've got sales and marketing, right? And most of it is the sales part, right? Marketing, there are different people who feel different, tons of different types of marketing. And for law firms, you've got relationship driven, you've got ads, you've got social, you've got pay per click, you got all these things. So we're not going to cover those. What we are going to talk about is the sales process. What happens when that lead gets to your office, however it comes in, right? What does your team do? But also the mindset behind this, you've got to master this, because mastering your leads, that so you get a consistent flow of leads, and mastering your sales process allows you to get off the roller coaster of feast and famine for revenue.
Yeah.
And that is the number one, I don't want to say destroyer of law firms, but it creates an enormous amount of stress for everybody involved, for the law firm owner, for the team and the staff as well, and then also for the spouse. And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest complaints we get, that trickle down to us, is all the uncertainty around, having your own firm, right? When revenue goes from one month it's $20,000, the next month it's $2,000. And this up and down pattern that so many people get stuck in, because they will market, work on their sales, get business, stop doing marketing and sales because they're too busy. Then they go to fulfillment and or operations, or work in those cases they've got. And then whatever your cycle is, 3 months, 6 months, a year, you burn through all those, and then they look up and they're like, oh crap, I don't have any clients. Now I got to start marketing and sales. So you put all your focus on that again, and it's up and down, which generates inconsistent revenue, massive amounts of stress, because you're stressed out when you don't have clients, then you're stressed out when you have
Mhm.
too many clients, then you're stressed out trying to fulfill on the clients, and then you realize you don't have any clients again. So you're always in a perpetual state of stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And then you go home and you talk to your spouse, and I'll say your wife, because I've got a wife, and they're like, how did today go? And then they're like, what's wrong? And they're like, well, we didn't make any money, or I'm getting low on clients. But it's, one month you're low on clients, the next month you're low on revenue, the next month, so you're always low on something. So that's what you're talking about, because that's what you're stressed about. And next thing you know, your wife is stressed out all the time, and she thinks your business is going to fail.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And I
so
think this is really tough when you don't have you're starting, maybe you're not just starting out, but you have a small enough firm that you don't really have departments, right? You don't have an intake department, you don't have a marketing department, you don't have an operations, like it's not segmented the same way. A lot of times, like there's some clients that we have right now inside the Legal Edge that are sole operators, right?
yep,
They are them. So they are all of those things at the same time. And so that becomes a struggle, right? We
yeah,
think, oh, if I could just, snap my fingers and magic wand and I had, somebody who could do that all the time, full time, right? And that would be great. But if that's not where you're at, then it's much harder to make that. I think something I've noticed has been interesting when you look at like this feast and famine, the up and down, the ebbs and flow, is people do not embody the identity of sales and marketing, right? And so if you're not selling every single day as a business owner, there's a problem. Like you're going, especially when you're dealing with your sales cycle, right? Because the work you do today doesn't necessarily pay you today, right? It's not
right,
how it works, right? So the work you're doing today is paying you that future date, and we do a really good job of business owners of consuming ourselves with busyness, all sorts of things we have to do today, and we get caught up, and we're working hard. This is the overwhelm that we talk about a lot at the Legal Edge. This is what it is,
yeah,
because you are so consumed with all the daily stuff, but the problem is you're not moving ahead, and you know it, because you'll start to, and if you don't know it, you're ignorant to it, you'll see it, right? 6 months, 12 months down the road, when all this working 60 hours a week, and all of a sudden you don't have money in the bank account. You're like, why? And you're like, oh shit, that's because I have not been selling every
Right.
single day. And
And
that's the hard part.
and 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 you have to get lawyers have a real hard time with the word selling, right? Because they're
Right.
like, oh, I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell my clients. I don't want to sell to this client who's talking to me in an office. And I'm going to tell you, if you feel like you do a good job and can genuinely help this client, and if you feel like you're better able to help this person than somebody else down the street, then you have an obligation, almost a moral obligation, to sell yourself so that you can help them and they get a superior product than if they just go down the street. It's one
Yep.
reason why we talk about niching down your practice so you can be good at it. Now, if you're not better than the guy down the street and you're putting out a bad product, get your product better, right?
Yep.
Become a better lawyer.
Yep.
But if you do, and I'm not even saying like you've got the best verdicts, because and like I'm in the PI space and everybody wants to talk about, well, I don't have $1 million verdict. That doesn't matter, because the guy getting $1 million verdicts may not be able to handle that small car wreck case as good as you can, because
Yep.
he's not going to care because it's so small. If you're empathetic, maybe you're better talking to the client. So maybe your numbers aren't better, but you make the clients feel appreciated, heard, understood, and they get a good closure with you because they feel like you really took care of them. That's okay. If that's your
Yep.
shtick, your obligation is to market and sell better to that
Mhm.
client so that you can help them. And if you
Yeah.
don't do it, they're going to go to somebody who's not as good as you, and then they're going to get a worse experience, or they're not going to be taken care of. So
Yeah.
if you're
That,
good, you've got to get marketing and sales. You actually owe it to the clients versus
mhm.
not doing a good job and not spending any time on this.
Yeah. One thing that I love you're hitting on, Shane, is you're basically talking about what is your unique selling proposition? What is it about you? I don't care if it's your very first day owning your own firm, or you like you said, you've been going at it forever and you got this massive firm. It doesn't matter. What is the thing about you that is it's what is that thing? There's got to be a thing, and you have to basically in your market be the world's greatest at it. And it could be as simple as, hey, I'm the world's greatest at having empathy.
Yeah,
Here's why. Here's how I do that. And here's why. That becomes a marketable and a sellable process. But you that obligation you talk about, it's all centered around, hey, helping others know and identify. And then you're slothful with the steward that you've been given if you don't sell them.
right.
And I
I mean,
think we get this bad rep in our mind about sales, and it always comes back to the same example that everybody uses, right? It's the used car salesman. And it's because you've got somebody who's selling an inferior, shitty product that they don't care about. I don't know, Shane, if you've ever, I mean, I bought plenty of cars, but I usually don't like to buy them used
I
unless
hate
they're
to buy
certified.
cars, new or used. I hate it. I hate the whole experience about cars.
So do
It's
I. So
one of
like
my
my
pet peeves.
yeah, my the place I buy all my cars from now, they know that I hate it, and so I'll tell them which car I want, and they know that I'm going to show up and I want to sign. That's all. I'm
Yeah,
not coming to do anything else with it. But I did buy a used. I wanted a Hummer, an old those old a Hummer H2, not a H1. It was an H2, but I wanted one. I just thought it was cool. I've always liked him as a kid. And I wasn't, placed financially. We built our business up that I could go buy one. And so I found one was a good one. They're hard to find. I bought it from a used car dealer, obviously, because you can't get a new H2. And this thing was shiny. It was amazing. It was beautiful. The salesman was like doing his little pitchy pitch thing and all this stuff. And that annoyed the shit out of me. But I wanted the Hummer. So I'm like, cool, let's just make it happen. Give me the paperwork. Let me get out of here. So I buy this Hummer. And within 6 months, I'd probably, it's not a lot of money, but I'd probably put 10 grand into this thing to fix it. Every week there was something wrong. It was more annoying as it was. And this was, and I'm like, dude, they knew this shit was wrong.
yeah,
Like I knew that some of the things that were broken on this thing, I'm like, dude, they basically covered it up with a freaking, like some magical, you know,
yeah.
rub stuff. I don't know what they did to it, but somehow they knew. And I knew they knew. And so I was like, this, but that's why we get a bad rap for selling. Because if you're selling a shitty product, you're trying to hide your inferior or your lack of whatever inside the product. This is where we don't want to sell people, because people don't like being sold shit that's not valuable. But if you find that unique selling proposition right out of the gate, and this would be my first challenge for all the listeners, if you don't know what your unique selling proposition is, number one, it's something we could help you with inside the Legal Edge, but you have to find that. Like you have to know what it is, because that thing is what you're going to build your value to the marketplace on. And if you don't have that value of who you are and what it is that you do, and you're the world's greatest at it, you become vanilla. You become, we just hope they find us on Google AdWords, and then that they just don't search around too much because they realize we're just like everybody else. Right.
And here's the key, Trevor. Nobody is, right? Nobody listening to it is just like everybody else.
Now,
Everybody's better at something. And
yes.
and people, because a lot of times they're like, I do personal injury work, or I do bankruptcy work. That's even the worst when they're like, I do bankruptcy work, it's all the same. It's not. There's something you guys at your firm do better than everybody else. Something that if you even left this firm and went to another one and they were talking about it, they're like, wow, you guys did that really good. And I don't know what it is, right? We can talk about it. Now, I tell people, look at your reviews. What do people talk about when you talk about your ex-clients? What do they say you did great?
Yeah.
And it may be something as simple. You don't even consider it. I mean, I think there's an episode of Mad Men when they're talking about this, and they're talking about what makes, I think it's Lucky Strikes better. And the guy's talking about they're all the same. They harvest the tobacco and they do it. And he goes, no, walk me through the process. And they've done it with beer, and they walk through it all, and they're like, oh, well, you guys use stainless steel copper tubs or some kind of garbage to do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, this whole process is unique. And they're like, it's not that unique. Well, it's unique enough, you know?
Yeah.
But like I had one person who worked for me. There was a lot of stuff she wasn't like rock star at, but what she was rock star at was talking to clients and making them feel heard, right? And she worked in my intake department, and people would call her, and she would listen to them and talk to them, and then be like, holy cow, I can't really help you. And I would get thank you notes about her on cases we didn't sign, some of them that we referred out, others that we couldn't even do anything with, really. She was just like, I'm sorry, this is a terrible situation. But I would
Right.
get letters talking about how great she was at that, and how wonderful she was, you
Yeah.
know, because that's what her unique ability was, to listen to people and make them feel heard.
Hmm. Yeah, and knowing that, then you can anchor it. You can utilize it. I mean, it's like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has a branding on customer service. And they have a statement, "My
Yep.
pleasure." They literally are trained to say "my pleasure." Like that's the words they have to use. But everyone knows that
Yeah,
they have
right.
great customer service. So
Right.
that's their unique proposition, which is always that's actually wild to me that your unique selling proposition could be that you're nice to people. I'm like, what the hell
Yeah.
is wrong with business owners? That should be the standard bottom line. We all do that, but it's not. So I mean, I think that illustrates it's pretty easy to stand out. So for
Yeah.
some of you guys, you're going to be struggling with this because you don't know what it is, right? There's an attorney I work with that his unique selling proposition is that he's a divorce attorney, and his right, lots of a divorce attorneys. So you could say, hey, I'm just like everybody else. His is not. His unique point is the fact that he prides himself and he markets himself off of not only you're getting divorced, but it's all about the kids, and he is able to create non-hostile environments for the divorce when there's children involved in it, and he has an empathetic way of being that, and everything he does is that way, and he has tons of testimonials and feedback. So he's built his entire firm around, hey, yeah, you're going through a divorce, it's a shitty time for you, most people are angry, come to me and I basically help you do this without a fight, right? and
Yeah.
and so that's, people hear that and they're like, oh shit, that sounds like something I'd be interested in. I don't want to fight
A
with my
lot more
my
pleasant than the other one.
ex-spouse over the kids, right? And some people are like, screw you, and they won't call that, they're, if they want to fight, I guess they're gonna be like, screw you, dude.
Right.
I don't want
I
anything to
thought
do
you were
with
going
that
to
guy.
tell me his unique position was that he answered the phone whenever anybody called, no matter the hours. And I was like, that I actually hate that unique
Oh,
position. And if you come to me and tell me that's your thing, I'm going to do my best. If you're one of my clients, I'm going to try to convince you to get a new one, to cash that one in, because that's a
yeah,
terrible unique selling. One, nobody believes it's true.
yeah,
Two, uh, my answering service acts like I do that. And number three, it's going to destroy your life. So,
yeah,
if that's your unique selling proposition, let's get a new one. Reach out to
yeah.
us, because
Well, and it also, I don't think that's actually, I don't, to me, if I have access to you, for example, Shane, if I could just call you at any point, if I'm just some rando, and I've got access to your cell phone, and I could just call you at any point whenever I wanted, and you would answer, that tells me you're not busy, you're not important, and that there's no barrier of entry to actually deal with you, which means you're probably not that good of an attorney.
exactly. And we talk about that. And actually, one of the videos in our foundational course is like, you need somebody else answering your phone. to
Yeah.
all of those reasons, to build authority, to even the perception of scarcity. I mean, it makes me think of some of the old videos where the person calls and they pretend like they've got their agent and they say, let me, so and so's agent, oh, let me get him for you, let me put you on hold, and he's talking to himself, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I think
100%. 100%.
because it's the same thing. It's terrible. And I talk about it. I was hiring a lawyer in another state. Nobody I knew had any referrals for me, so I started doing what our clients do, calling people, and I got direct access to one. She picked up the phone, and I didn't hire her because it's made me start questioning everything.
Yeah.
And then I got somebody else who had the secretary who asked a couple questions. Then I got on him, like 30 minutes later, and it all matched somebody who was who was busy and doing this kind of work, and that's who I ultimately went with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, then
so
you're describing basically the process, right? There has to
yeah,
be an intake process that positions you. And there's like, we obviously can't cover all of it on today's show, nor could we in probably 2 weeks worth of training. Like, this is something that takes you really got to dive into each one of these. But I think that's the first thing to identify after you've just identified your unique selling prop is what is the process then? All right, so this brings us to the end of part one of the intake inside of your law firm and the training that we offer. To get access to our free training, head over to legaledgecoaching.com and you can get instant access to our free 4-part training that we've put together for intake, as well as other free trainings that we have available. Tune in next week where we will continue down this intake conversation with part two.